when I was interviewing for a position, I got told by 2 people, I can't hire a white male right now in a leadership role.
The odds of people getting rejected for being a white male are far less.
I agree with you 15 years ago. For the past 5 years, I think it's actually quite the opposite.
I have never seen another person in marketing with a hijab on. And I've seen so many white males. I'm Zaria, head of social at DoorDash and previously Duolingo.
I'm Brent, co-founder and CEO of Geezer Creative.
I'm Pearson, VP of Creative at Liquid Death.
DEI hiring lowered the talent bar. I agree with that. I think any time that we're putting a criteria to hiring individuals, we lose the ability to hire the best person for the job. And while I'm not against DEI practices, I do think that it's lowered the talent bar.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree because I think that the bar has to be looked at as a holistically to the entire organization and what we're bringing. And so, I mean, look at creativity through time. Anytime that more diversity is introduced into any situation, that's what inherently breeds innovation. And so to say that bringing in more diversity into a creative department, agency, whatever, is going to make the output of that worse is flawed.
I don't disagree that diversity makes for creativity. What I disagree with is that forced diversity is not the solution. Once upon a time when I was interviewing for a position, I got told by 2 people, I can't hire a white male right now in a leadership role, right? That's a miss, right? Just having to hire a woman for the sake of a woman is kind of if I were a woman, I'd be as pissed off at that as I was in the latter.
I think a woman here would probably disagree with that statement here.
I don't think that anybody wants to be hired. I don't want to be hired just because I'm a white.
No, certainly not because of, but having an equal opportunity to have an
equal opportunity. I agree. But if it's forced, if you're forcing on a brief and you're saying we cannot hire a white man in this role, we need to look for a colored individual of this age group. To me, that's missing the opportunity because the most talented person for the job might have been not looking and sounding like the person that you put on a brief.
But maybe the talented is not the only criterion in which we should be judging people, right? So again, by bringing in various voices, we gain more experience that can be fed into that. When I'm building a creative department, when I'm building a team, I'm looking at the entire thing as an organization that needs different inputs rather than necessarily what is the most talented person to fill that role.
I treat it like an episode of The Voice. Right? Okay. I want to hire the best person for the job, and then however they look, show up, what their sexual orientation is, irrelevant, completely irrelevant. I will never put on a document that I have to hire for this person because it's going to look good, be it to a client or to the external world. I just think that's a massive miss.
Yeah, well, disagree. Yeah.
I think something that you're fundamentally missing is like access and like the rooms that like the fact that you were even able to interview and have someone reject you. Like, yes, we want to be judged on our talent. We want to be judged on our experiences and what we bring. But like realistically, you as a white male will have more access to even those rooms where people are even judging you. For us to even get to that point is like.
That's totally fair. I mean, but that wasn't part of the discussion the way that I read the DE&I is lowering the talent bar. When it comes to access, you're absolutely right? I'm judging the people that do have access, right? So for those that do have access to it, I don't believe that we should be deciding in advance what that person should look, sound, and be like.
But do you not think the bias of the interviewer might come into play in that? Like, in the sense of like, if you're in...
That's where I'm saying I'm against the bias, right? The bias is to say I need to hire a white woman for this role. That's bias, right? Okay. I say I need to hire the most talented leader for this role that have these criteria and this experience. I don't care what they look like.
But do you think, just statistically speaking, like even in those rooms with access, like statistically speaking, generally, like in a place that's majority white, in a field that's majority male, the odds of people getting rejected for being a white male, I feel like are far less than the odds of like a woman or a woman of color being rejected, or even like getting space at a table, even before like...
I agree with you 15 years ago. For the past 5 years, I think it's actually quite the opposite. If you're in advertising right now and you're a white male and you're from Gen X, forget about it. Less than 5% of the industry are people over the age of 50. And that's purposeful.
I feel like I have never seen another person in marketing with a hijab on. And I've seen so many white males, right? Like that's just...
Yeah, that's your experience.
So I think that's
fair.
what they're trying to include more of like...
But I don't think the answer is to say I have to hire a person that wears a hijab. I think it is, I need to hire a social media leader, and I found one. She's amazing. Her name is Zaria, and she wears a hijab.
But do you think that's coming from how, just looking at the past, like past 15 years, just how excluded they were from those rooms, that like maybe now it's leveling the playing field versus excluding?
I totally agree with you. And because they were excluded, again, was because it was purposeful. There were people that weren't opening up the aperture to talent from everywhere.
So looking at the industry as a whole and like how with social becoming big and everyone's looking for like the next young Gen Z, Gen Alpha to run their team, do you think Gen X is being excluded from these opportunities? And like, do you think there should be some DEI initiative for like a Gen Xer?
No, I don't think in the example that you gave of social media, I think that is when you're saying I need the people that are innately the best equipped and the most talented in that space, in that medium. If I look at my background in advertising, right now, as I said, less than 5% of the industry are north of 50. That's very purposeful. But it's purposeful because we're the most experienced, we're the most expensive. So get rid of all the people making 250, 300, 350 and replace them with people getting paid 125. And that's why we're finding ourselves in a situation where some of the most experienced people in the industry are not working anymore and they can't find their way back in.
So do you think though, if it was flipped, taking social media out of it, we want to hire more Gen Xers and like, Andy, you're out because you're a millennial.
That would come down to the reason, right? Again, I don't think that you should be doing that. You should be giving your brief to say, I'm looking for a person that fills this talent gap. Right? Now, if that talent gap lends itself to Gen Alpha or Gen Z, right, then that's just natural. That's fine. That's the way in. But you might have a young, whip smart, absolutely integrated, passionate person that's 53 years old that owns social media that you missed.
I guess where I'm coming at it from is that I think we're trying to correct what was severely undercorrected for years. So like, even if that's a situation, like, sure, maybe in this time period it might feel unfair to a white male, but in general, looking at like how the things lay, like they tend to get favor in these rooms regardless. And like, yes, agreed, somebody probably shouldn't say I'm looking for like a 24-year-old like brown girl. But when it comes down to these situations, like the reality is like white males do run this industry. Like even being at like Cannes this year was so cool. I was like, oh my God, I get to be here. And like somebody literally asked me if I was working the event because I was wearing hijab and it was brown.
And you're in Côte d'Azur, which doesn't make it any better.
Right? And I've had this, like doing keynotes and people are like, you can't get in. I'm like, my face is on the fucking like thing. Like I'm literally speaking there. And I think it's more about now the industry is realizing and waking up that like we need to have these people in these rooms because they bring diverse perspectives. They bring these things that, inherently I'm probably gonna have way different perspectives going through life than you probably ever will. Being a person of color is a skill in the sense of going through these experiences, navigating it, figuring it out, dealing with like being shit on from every angle and still showing up every day. And I think that in itself is its own skill that lends itself to like being a creative in this industry.
But what you just described as a valuable and viable rationale to making a hiring decision. You're not making it a DEI play. In fact, you're saying to have 6 creative people that are all white men that are 35 years old probably isn't going to set us up for success. We need some diversity on this team. But that's not just a poor DEI decision that says we need to hire these people for these reasons to fulfill our obligation.
I think it still just comes down to access. I mean, again, this is also, I don't got stats, but I feel like very rarely is it like I'm hiring this person, but they're unqualified compared to this white man that was qualified. Usually they're both very qualified candidates and probably can do the same job, and they're choosing to hire this person of color given maybe they don't have all these people, or like just an industry pattern of, hey, we should do something different.
But that's a smart decision to make.
When we're too often giving up because we say we can't find the right talent to fulfill the role, it's a bit of a cop-out to say that we couldn't find somebody that was an additive to the team in a way that we currently don't have. And so I think to claim that DEI is lowering the bar is missing the point of the bar entirely.
But to be clear, it's not DEI is lowering the ball, it's purpose written out. We cannot hire these people and we can only hire these people. I think that that's purposeful and harmful DEI. DEI overall, it's a great practice, right? I just think that in the question that came up is forcing it lowering the bar. And I think the answer is yes, if you're forcing it. I don't think we should force it. Like, not hiring a white male because he's a white male is as bad as hiring the person of color because they're a person of color, right? I just think that it's forced, and that's incorrect.